This is the Unshadowed Thought Podcast with James Hall. This podcast is dedicated to Michelle Goyevich, Ed White, Caitlin Treacle, and I Chan, and also all the others that have lost their life as a direct result of psychiatric harms. Okay, welcome back. Thanks for listening. If you're listening, I hope this one is really helpful and informative. I've been thinking over the last few days what I want to say on the next cast to try to make it definitively clear where I'm at right now and what has happened and what hasn't happened, and cover as much stuff as I can and that's new and that I can clarify, because some of it probably have talked about, but I think if for people that are listening, they really want to know, or I would want to know, like from a really solid perspective, what's happened and what hasn't happened in regards to the prolonged water fast. What are the benefits and what has not benefited? Where are you at and how clear is it? So first off, let me clarify where I'm at and how clear things are, or how clear they should be or shouldn't be at this point. So in a couple days, I'll be at 2 weeks after I ended my fast, after I started refeeding. When you start refeeding, like you just take in some juice and maybe some fruit. And so your body is essentially still fasting. It's getting some nutrients, but like your digestive system has basically stopped. So one thing to measure about a fast is when you're going and say you run into some issues like I did. I wasn't feeling well. I started getting concerned, right? You're still fasting, like you're still in the middle of it. You can't just stop fasting, right? You have to slowly come out and slowly start refeeding. So there's some big considerations to make around that. And I don't think it's really doctors may fast a lot of people and have like a high confidence in that part of the process, but going through it for yourself, it's not easy to go through, because you can't just start eating again and feel normal again, and you're very fatigued, you're very tired. Your body has no nutrients, it's using its stores, like you're still in a very slow, as you go through the fast, all your processes slow down and shut off. You're giving all your body processes a rest, all of them. Your cognition, your metabolism, your digestive system, your nervous system, all the subsystems, right? Like they're all getting a rest and they're all shutting off essentially, right? Which probably a lot of doctors out there say this is a bad thing, right? But it's not a bad thing. All your systems need a rest. They all need to be shut off. And we have this wonderful mechanism inside us that allows us to do that. And it's naturally occurring in nature, right? During famines, your system would be forced to shut off. There's a natural cycle, just like forests burn down. So the ashes refertilize the soil and they go back up again. This is like the equivalent for human beings. So anyways, I've already discussed that a little bit. I'll try to go forward and give us some new information for those that are interested in where I'm at and if I've sustained progress or if I keep feeling better or maybe I've gone backwards, whatever. So I'll say this right off the bat. I've only felt better since I've ended the fast. Immediately after I ended the fast, lots of question marks because I didn't feel real well. And I was very scared about refeeding and doing different things. So I was very nervous, had some panic attacks. Looking back on them, they're pretty low grade panic attacks. They really didn't bother me that much, or I didn't pass out. They weren't, when you think about a severe panic attack, they weren't that. I was just very concerned about refeeding, thinking something bad was going to happen to me because I haven't done it before. I've never gotten this far in a fast. As time goes on, those have reduced down to nothing. So during the first week, I had a few panic attacks, and I would call them mild. And they really didn't last that long. It was really just a few minutes until they resolved. Then I was fine. I just sat down and relaxed, and they resolved. Here's the thing that I learned too. I thought maybe I was having the panic attacks from like taking in a lot of sugar because I ate a lot of fruit, like watery fruit at the beginning. And that was one of my first thoughts, like, oh, I've taken in too much sugar, because I handled sugar horribly. I got akathisia, inner akathisia, from eating sugar and dairy and gluten, things that slowed down my system in the past. And it would be really severe. So when I started taking a lot of sugar, I thought maybe the ACK is coming back, or I'm panicking from my system being overloaded with the sugar, because my metabolism and the way it processes energy is still not right. What I found out after that happened a few times was that I was actually doing too much. Every single time I would get, as I was refeeding, I would get big bursts of energy, and not negative energy. Like a lot of us in the psychiatric harm community, like you can feel anxious for no reason and have an excess or surplus of energy that's a negative kind of feeling and a negative connotation. You feel over anxious and for no reason. I've experienced that more times than I can count, right? It is not that way. So I had an abundance of energy. It felt natural. I actually felt really happy. And I was like, I want to get up and do some things. I want to, help my family, do the dishes, clean. I have things that I haven't done for a month that I would want it to get to, right? And I started doing those things. Well, the more things I did, the more energy I had. It was very, very odd sensation, especially because I had chronic fatigue syndrome before. And so I would wake up completely exhausted, right? And then as the day went on, I might get a little bit of energy. I would do some things, and then I would be completely exhausted at the end and just want to like go to sleep. And then I would nap all the time. I kind of stopped napping because I didn't like the idea of being up at night if I nap for too long. So I would just rest instead of nap. But I had these tremendous energy issues before this fast. So now coming out of the fast, I had an overabundance of energy. I wanted to do things. And the more things that I did, the more energized I felt. This is a complete 180. It's a massive change, massive shift. That alone is a huge thing for me. And I'll talk about a bunch more things. So back to what my original thing was, these panic attacks that I had initially. So I would keep working when I had more energy, and it was really odd sensation. And this is in the early days. This isn't the few days following, like day 4 or 5, 3, 4, and 5, maybe somewhere in there. Like I get up and started doing things because of this energy, right? And then I wouldn't stop, because the more I would do, I would have like the more energy to complete it. And honestly, I did a few things in the morning and I felt like I could do it all day. Haven't felt like that even way before TMS. So I'm doing this stuff, and then all of a sudden I would have a panic attack, or this mild panic attack, which it was clearly a panic attack. And when I did that, I'd be like, okay, I need to sit down. I need to calm down. I've been doing all this stuff. When a few days ago, I was basically laying all day, like totally sedentary, like on my fast. I would try to get up a few times a day, do some stretches, do a few things, but I was so tired all the time, or I was so sedentary, that I just would spend most of my time sitting and laying, not doing much, right? I'm like this, and my body's and I had no nutrients, right? Like, and now I'm getting nutrients. So there's this really big shift, and I could feel the shift. And mentally, I felt really good. Like before I had the panic, I actually was very happy, which was also a new thing for me. I haven't experienced happiness like that. I mentioned in a previous podcast for a very, very, very long time. Right. And so I have energy and I'm happy and upbeat, right? Like, so I've spent the last 5 years feeling like crap and having no energy, or an overabundance of energy that made me feel really bad. Right. And now I have this even balanced, sustainable, like almost like a high energy version. Like it reminds me of when I was really young. And then I just panicked, right? I mean, it could have purely been like a psychological thing. Like the whole situation got so weird to me and so different that I panicked. I think what happened was those panic attacks. I thought maybe I had had too much fruit, right? Because I had started ingesting more and more fruit to get my digestive tract going. Well, I started eating vegetables, so I eliminated the sugar, and I still had the panic attacks. Well, but the one thing that was consistent was the overactivity I had that preceded that. So this is for me. It could be different for everybody. I'm sure lots of people don't have the issue, right, with the panic. But what I know now, because then I went back and started eating fruits again. And I didn't panic, but I had to, even though I had the energy, I had to take it easy. Like my body or my brain or my nervous system, it was just sensitive to all that activity. And I think you feel great after the fast as your emotions and as your metabolism starts to come back online and you're interacting with food and you're having food and it's so good and it's so amazing. But your body, like in so many ways, like my muscles weren't responding in the same way. Even though I was being active with minor stuff, I could not go like and lift weights or go for a run. My muscles were still very sluggish and slow, even though I had the energy. There was like, it's just really obvious to someone that was in the room, kind of hard to describe, or I'm probably leaving out details that would help people understand, is that your body is still moving very slow. Like your organs are still sucked into your body. Like there's all these sensations of you still being on the fast. You're still like way, like for me, I was already low BMI, right? So now I'm way under my BMI. And and I know I wasn't starving because like my body was not eating my muscle. Like I retained my muscle, but everything else sunk down, right? So at this point, I know I didn't hit starving. I know I was still using my reserves, but I probably got close, right? Because I'm underweight. But I feel really comfortable that I did it in a healthy way, and the way I'm bouncing back feels really healthy. But the point is that my body was still fasting, right? Or still recovering from the fast in a really, really, really big way when I started doing all this activity just because I felt like I could. I am almost absolutely certain that was the steady factor. That was always there when I did the panic. And how I got over it was I went and I laid down, or I just sat down and just relaxed. Like I just like calm. Like I just went back to what I did when I was fasting. When you're fasting, you just stay calm, you just relax, right? That's your baseline. That's what you do. Same thing. I just went, had my little spot where I hung out when I was fasting, went back there, laid down, just took some breaths and just thought about stuff, where I was at, what I was doing, kind of put my feet back down. And then every time, just go right away, just calm right down, right? And come back to baseline. So as I was going through that process, certain unpleasant things, or you get certain sensations in your body, there's a lot of new sensations. There's a lot of things going on that you haven't experienced. Some of that stuff feels unpleasant. As time has gone on, those things have resolved and gone away. So those negative things I was experiencing have gone away. Now, the emotional things, I would say I'm more normal emotionally. Like if something happens to me that's unpleasant or doesn't go my way, right? Like say I'm doing dishes and I drop something, right? And it bangs on the counter, right? Like I feel like I'm having a more of a healthy emotional response. Before I was just blunted, right? Like whether something fell and broke or whether I washed a dish and dried it and put it away without incident, it really felt the same way either way. And so with this, like when bad things are happening, like I'm having the negative emotion experience, I'm like sad about something, or I'm like, dang it, I broke that. That was so dumb, right? That's my default thinking, hopefully not yours, but right. And then I get really frustrated, right? I'm used to being irritable, which is a little bit different than being frustrated when something frustrating happens, right? So I'm experiencing a normal range of emotions. So I have very positive things, and then I have very negative things. Psychologically dealing with these is very difficult for me, which I didn't think would be a challenge, or I didn't anticipate, because I'm not used to dealing with a healthy or more normal range of emotion. I'm used to dealing with blunting and severe anxiety that comes on with no reason. I'm used to dealing with severe fatigue and physiological depression that comes on for no reason. Or if I eat poorly in the past, in any regard, I would have like severe anxiety or depression that would come on. Physiological, of course, this isn't really an emotional kind of thing, right? It would just, my body would react in a way that my metabolism would basically shoot me up or shoot me down. And there was nothing I could do about it. I was just trapped in there experiencing that stuff. So these are the things kind of generally I've been going through. I'm going to hop to it here. I have kind of a list that I made. So what have the changes been So that was kind of to frame things up for people. Like, that's what I've been working through. I haven't come and done a podcast because I've been working through those things and trying to understand what's real and what's not, what's temporary and what's not, what is me just coming out of the fast, and what are sustained benefits that I've had, and what am I not benefiting from, or like what seems like it stayed or what got worse from the past. So I'm just going to hit you with so I'm almost a couple days away from week 2. I was feeling strong enough about my thoughts to come and deliver it now. And then I think I want to reevaluate at 1 month to see if these are sustained. So they may feel sustained right now, or like maybe I'm going to have these for a long time, but we don't know, right? So I'm going to have to come back and revisit this stuff as time goes on. We'll do several. I mean, if we hit 6 months or a year of doing some of these reevaluations, then we know, I mean, I'm going to call that like some permanent benefit if I can hit a year and really have had no change. Or if things get worse, or I'm suffering from things that I wasn't before, then those need to be everything needs to be shared with the people that are listening and taking this stuff seriously or can benefit from the information. So I'm going to give it all to you, everything that I realize and can note, positive, negative, in between, all of it. So this is where I'm at. So I'm going to go with the positive things because those are things I think about the most, but I have a list of things that haven't changed or I'm concerned about as well, and I'll hit those, but they seem to be pretty minimal at this moment in time. I really haven't got any worse on anything generally, but I'll talk about that. So what's changed for the positive? At this moment in time, 2 weeks after the fast, my metabolism is entirely different. It's the metabolism of a stranger, which I kind of hit on before. When I get up, I have energy. I have sustained energy throughout the day. And then when I go to bed, I still have energy and lay down to go to sleep. And I go to sleep within 30 minutes. Like, the energy does not keep me awake. I don't have insomnia. It was kind of hard to sleep on the fast. When I was fasting, you would sleep really lightly and you wouldn't go to, and it would take upwards of an hour to get to sleep. And I didn't feel like I had too much energy or not enough. It just, my body was just awake. It was an odd sensation. And then I'd wake up 3 or 4 times during the night, be kind of awake, kind of snooze. It's almost like you would just nap. This has been reported tons. It's like a well-documented thing with fasting. It wasn't a surprise. I was ready for it. I stayed calm. I felt fine. It wasn't a stressed out thing when I was fasting. But post-fast, when I got hurt by TMS, I had a few really vivid dreams a few times, and they really impacted me for one way or the other. But most of the times I just do not dream. Just don't dream. So there's a lack of, lots of times I felt like it was a toxic sleep. Most days you wake up feeling worse than when you went to sleep, and you'd be extremely fatigued when you wake up. So clearly, a TMS injury, psychiatric injury, neurological injury, it can severely impair your sleep processes. For me, post-fast, I've been having wild dreams like almost every night. I can remember them very well. I don't remember a night that I haven't dreamt and remembered that I had crazy dreams yet, and it's been 2 weeks. Like I said, great energy during the day. I can do anything I want. I still take time to rest, even when I'm doing a lot of things. But the last couple of days, I've done stuff pretty much all day and I haven't had any panic or anything. There's been times I've been like, man, I've been going for a while. I need to sit down and just relax a little bit to avoid any panic attacks, kind of like I had in the past, but I don't feel any coming on. I feel calm, feel fine to sit for a few minutes, like enjoy a meal, relax. Maybe sit and read a little bit, do a little bit something to stay, calm. And again, a lot of this for me is, as I'm going forward, I'm thinking about the poor psychology or the poor thought processes and the habits I had before my fast. And I'm trying to abandon all those post-fast, because as you start doing things, you go back to your old habits and your old ways of thinking. And I'm type A. So my old habit of thinking is, if you have energy and you're awake and your brain's working, you need to be productive. You need to go find stuff to do. You need to, make sure you're not getting behind the ball on anything. Always keep yourself going. Always stay productive, stay ahead of the ball, and you're going to be in a good spot, right? I need to let go of that. that is not healthy at all. So that's something I'm working on. So I'm working on having healthy. Okay. I apologize. I'm not going to do any editing, but this is kind of like a part two. I had to step away for a moment. I forgot I had an appointment. I was doing the podcast. So coming back to it, kind of lost the track I was on, but I know what I wanted to cover today. So my metabolism is 100, huge change, right? So I have solid energy on tap, like it was when I was a kid. This is going back, not even in my mid-20s did I feel this well after eating and having solid energy. We're talking about it's incredibly profound here at week 2. I don't know how things will play out going forward. We'll see. We'll recap. We'll come back to it. But I have the energy I did when I was a teenager and a child. Like even in my late teens and my early 20s, like if I wasn't in supreme physical health, like after I ate a meal, I would be tired. Let me tell you what I did yesterday. Hopefully this will make you laugh. Hopefully it won't make you cry. But yesterday I decided that I was going to try to eat whatever I wanted and see if it would precipitate a negative reaction. If I would get akathisia from too much sugar, if I ate a ton of junky carbs, whether that make me tired, would my digestion stop? All kinds of questions in my head because I have reacted so poorly in the past to food. Like just for the last 5 years after TMS is horrible. No matter how clean I ate, there's a time when I was on Candida cure for a while that I didn't respond to food. And when I just ate good food, like I would just feel fine after, right? Even I started to develop some positivity in my emotion and stuff for a bit. But as soon as I ate anything remotely bad again, I would feel horrible. And I had horrible episodes after that of like weird vision, all kinds of crazy stuff happening from just like doing really minor stuff. Like I had half a milkshake one time and I had inner akathisia for a week. Things like that, visual distortions from eating crappy stuff, all kinds of extreme like chronic fatigue syndrome, stuff like that, right? So yesterday I've been doing so well with food, consistent energy, never feeling poorly after I ate, not to any degree, right? I was like, well, tomorrow I'll go out and I'll eat whatever I want, essentially, within reason. I mean, I'm not gonna try coffee. Caffeine gave me such an extreme reaction. Like I literally had insomnia for like 2 weeks after I had a cup of coffee, years ago, and I will never do that. I'm gonna try it at some point because I want to understand what's happening and the extent of the changes. I'm just not ready for that kind of thing yet. But I will try that. So my first step was to have a day where I just eat whatever I want. I would have pushed myself into akathisia before my fast for sure. But it would also make me feel poorly in a lot of different ways and screw up my sleep, all kinds of stuff. Just a plethora of bad experience. So I went out, I had eggs Benedict in the morning. Then I had these strawberry shortcake pancakes that were like covered in sugar and all kinds of stuff, right? I had a chai latte, no caffeine, with it. Right. These are things just individually that I wouldn't even dream of eating even after the fast. And before it, certainly not. I haven't eaten anything like this excessive stuff, like at one meal. I have not eaten this since I can remember for years because I would have reacted so badly. So I did that. And I had that for breakfast. And then after breakfast, I was still out of my mind, like having fun. And there's this crazy bagel place that had cannoli bagels with cannoli cream cheese stuff. So this is like chocolate chip cream cheese with a bagel with cannoli filling. I love cannolis. They're so freaking good. And I was going to cut it off. I was just going to do breakfast and see how I did. It was totally out of my mind, just having fun. I was like a school kid, right? Going nuts. And out with my family. They're like They're like, whatever. They're just letting me do my thing. And to be honest, my family usually does. Like, I usually have to tell them my bounds and for them to enforce them, because they let me do, and they let me get into trouble sometimes, and I get mad at them, but I shouldn't. It's my responsibility. But so then I have some of this bagel like just packed with like dairy and probably gluten, and I don't know if it's the gluten, but it wasn't gluten free. I don't even want to tell myself that. I just feel bad saying it out loud. And sugar, and I ate that. Went home, I had some more. I had a salad for lunch. I was like, I'm not going to abuse myself thoroughly today. And then I had like we made homemade burritos. So like beans and cheese, homemade tortillas, crazy big meal. And then I ate it and I was so full. I was so full, but I was continuing to eat fruits and vegetables in between these things to make sure my digestion stayed in track. But the thing is, I had only planned to eat like the eggs Benedict, just see how I did with that. But I felt so well after everything that I just kept going. It was like, and part of me just flew off the rails, because I'll be honest, like I'm a sugar addict. Like I treat sugar the way some people treat um, heroin or like a coke habit. Like at one point, I was on the Candida cure. Like I hid under my table and ate like a bunch of cookies. Like when I had sworn to everybody around me that I wouldn't do that, right? I violated the trust of people around me and did something just super deceptive, whatever. Some people think it's cookies, is nothing. No, it was the way I treated the situation, right? Like I treat it like an addict. I'd lie when I don't lie and do things like that to try to hide like what I felt guilty about, or doing something way out of proportion. Just eating that much stuff in the quantity that I did is just ridiculous when I had done that before. But yesterday, so I did this yesterday, and I felt totally fine, absolutely fine the whole time. You know, I felt a little stuffed at some point. I was expecting panic. I was expecting severe anxiety. I was expecting to feel extremely fatigued. Like when I just ate that food, I just feel tired afterwards at a minimum. I didn't. I kept going all day. I just hung out. I did stuff, went shopping, went around, did things, you know, and then came home and rested, and you know, had dinner and enjoyed my night, and with no adverse effects from my food. It should have been, like if I would have done this before I fasted, it would have been horrendous. I'm done with it. I did it. It was an experiment. I wanted to see how I reacted. Like I'm back on track. I'm eating fruits and vegetables and good stuff today. Right back to where I was. I had to know if 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 the changes were that thorough. I had to know if what I'm experiencing and what I think I'm experiencing is real, whether it's just superficial. I'm just keeping myself afloat with like good food, you know, and I'm still extremely sensitive. What does that say? I had extreme sensitive supplements, medications, foods, all these things before I fasted. This is 2 weeks after. I don't know if it'll revert. I don't know if it'll shift back, but right now it hasn't. And I've tested the balance thoroughly by eating stuff you really should not eat, or I would have reacted really severely to in the past. And it did not happen, not even any little bit. No heightened anxiety, no heightened energy, no nothing, just clear, consistent energy all day. Felt good all day, felt happy all day. I kept telling my family, I was like, I'm having so much fun right now. I'm having so much fun. I can't believe this. I have so much fun. You know, I'm so glad you guys are here with me, doing this with me. And they had fun too. So there's two things there. There's a metabolic change that's occurred that's been profound, and there's a digestive change that happened that was profound. So the other thing that would happen to me before is I would have had extreme consequences. I would have had to go to the bathroom like urgently a little while after having eaten that. Or maybe the opposite would occur depending exactly on what I ate, or I would be like stopped up for days. Neither have happened. I've been totally fine and fluid. My stomach's handled it perfectly. No urgency, no pain, no discomfort in my stomach. I felt full yesterday when I was doing this. Like I ate a little bit too much and I felt full, but literally within minutes, my stomach was tearing through this stuff. It was digesting it. I didn't stay full. Even in the past, even before fasting, even before my injury, like if I ate that much food, I would be full all day. my digestive system would come to a stop. And like, no matter how many fruits and vegetables, if I ate that stuff and tried to offset things, it still would have stopped. And I still would have felt sluggish and tired. I would have taken a nap after, right? None of that stuff happened. Complete digestive reset. And this is how I felt, whether I was eating this kind of food or not. There's nothing there. There's no negative things. I've had like irritable bowel syndrome to some degree for like the last 25 years ish, at times when it's been severe, where it's impacted like every part of my life. Like it's impacted my travel. I don't travel well because of it, all kinds of stuff like that. I have the opposite of that now. Like I literally, my stomach like underreacts to everything. It's cool, it's calm. I have no urgency with anything. I go to the bathroom when I want to, essentially, and everything goes the way I expect. You know, coming off the fast, you don't go to the bathroom for a while, which is expected, of course. It takes 5 to 7 days for your bowel movements to resume. Mine was 3 days. You know, and it wasn't a whole lot. And then later it was a lot more. And it's been growing. And then as I've been eating more, as I expect, you know, it's been a complete reset metabolically and digestively. I can't think much else to say right now, except for my stomach feels whole. I don't know if leaky gut, like there's people talk all kinds of stuff about it, right? Like, and there's this medical phenomenon for it and like this evidence and stuff, but what a person experiences, whether they experience leaky gut or not, it's hard to determine. Some doctors will be sure about it, but I don't really hold doctors' opinions in too much esteem. They really have to prove themselves to earn my trust, because a lot of them just are good at speaking and convincing people, but really don't have the evidence that they need. So now the way my gut feels so solid and so together and so even and so full, like it makes me really happy just to even talk about it. Comparing that to the way I felt before, I can only think of something like leaky gut. Like it felt like whatever I ate, it just constantly, even if it was good food, it constantly screwed things up. Like I constantly felt bad or not great. The best thing is I wouldn't feel much of anything. I never got positive effects to my food. Now, like when I eat an orange, like I feel energized and fresh and good. Like if I eat a salad, feel the same thing. Yesterday, I felt energized and good even after I ate all that crap. Like I can feel my body taking the nutrients out of my food again, like it's whole. And if I had to compare it to something before, it felt like it's somehow my gut was porous and like things were leaking out and into my bloodstream, or my brain was not connected to my gut in a way that was effective. It felt like it was full holes. It felt like it was broken. It felt like it was, you know, segmented, fragmented, you know, in disrepair, like not proportional, you know, like haywire. That's how it felt. So yeah, it's entirely different now. I feel completely confident in my stomach. Like before, whereas I didn't like to travel because I didn't know what my stomach was going to do. Even if I was emotional, my stomach would freak out, right? I have zero concerns about traveling like at this moment for that reason. Like it's just gone. Like my gut feels 100% solid, and I hope that continues. And I'm going to treat it really well and take care of it so that I can preserve that. But what I'm communicating is that there is a profound change in my gut health and the way my gut works at this moment. It's absolutely profound, meaning like it's just, another person might call it a miracle, right? I mean, I know this is because of the fast. I felt my gut change over time during the fast, and now I felt it changing after the fast in positive, amazing ways. So for me, it's just profound. It's not miraculous, right? It's profound. It's a change that's so significant. It just blows your mind. It's almost hard to explain. Like you know, one day it was the worst. Now it's great. Yeah, I did something to get there, but There's no medical convention. There is absolutely nothing I've ever seen in the medical world that in 1 month you can go from having your gut in the condition that I did to what it is now. There's absolutely nothing that the modern medical community could do to make the change that I just had. There is nothing even close. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke to think that any doctor would suggest that you could make those kinds of changes. And I know there's the ones out there that would make the claims, and that would gladly take people's money from them. And when it didn't work, keep their money to do that, right? But no, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. Not from what I've experienced. No, that's what profound is. And that's what I'm experiencing now. So, I mean, yeah, it's been 2 weeks. Easy to cast skepticism on that. Even I'm skeptical. So we'll see. We'll see what happens at the month window. We'll see what's out. But you got to understand with prolonged water fasting, these are the claims that are being made about it, and the information and the evidence and the ancient evidence about this process, that it completely transforms you, right? So it completely changes your gut. It cures or stops metabolic diseases, right? That it changes these things fundamentally so that you get a fresh start and you can go forward in a healthy way without experiencing those diseases anymore. So am I surprised? Yeah, I'm surprised because it's profound. There's a profound change that occurred. I didn't believe what I had read. I just didn't. The claims that were made, I was just like, it's just too much. Like maybe individualistically, those people, their bodies were ready for that change, and then it happened. I believe it happened. I believed it was honest. I didn't necessarily believe that there would be a profound change for me in my situation. But here I am experiencing it. And I've been searching for these answers for 5 years and putting every bit of my being into finding the answers. So I won't, obviously it's emotional. It is, it just is. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm sitting at with those. It's wild stuff. That's why I'm sharing it. I felt compelled to share it now and today because I just didn't want to wait any longer. So emotional changes are completely profound as well. They're on the same scope and scale as the others. Prolonged water fasting, they're saying 80 to 90% of people with mental illness, air quote, meaning like I don't necessarily believe in mental illness in the way that it's described by psychiatry and even psychology, the DSM and stuff like that. But I understand the utility of the term and trying to describe what feelings we're having and we're sharing and the situations we're getting into with this stuff. So that's where I'm kind of at with that. So if I use the term, I don't mean to offend anybody or even kind of make a profession of what I think about this stuff. I'm just doing it out of simplicity and the ability to try to communicate as clearly as I can. So I feel I have a full normal range of emotion now. Like certain things upset me. Certain things bring me great joy that I haven't experienced since I was a child. I have the ability to have fun and to laugh and to feel wellness, happy, and joy like down deep inside of me. A family member said, well, we played games over the last few years, and you would have a good time and you would smile and you would laugh. And, I know you had a good time. Was that real or whatever? Because I was telling them how well I feel now. And I told them, I said, those things were all real. All those things did happen. But the scale was all screwed up. My happiest over the last 5 years was maybe a 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. And a 3 for me was fantastic. It genuinely felt good to get up to a 3. Happy, I would smile and laugh. But what people don't understand is that you play the games, you hang out, there's this grand distraction of being around other people. And then when you go home, you experience suicidal ideation, akathisia, interakathisia, severe physiological anxiety and depression. Your body goes haywire for whatever. You're in a bunch of pain. You have tinnitus. You're dizzy. You have balance issues. All these things. How is it that a person can be happy through that? How happy do you think a person can be when that's the rest of their time? I don't want to trigger anybody, but that tells you where I was at, right? So pushing through that stuff, accepting that stuff, and living that stuff every day, like you only get so happy. And I was glad to be a 3. And if all this stuff reverts and I go backwards and that's my life again, I'll be glad to be a 3 at my highest and be a 1 and a 2 the rest of the time as well. I'll get through it the best that I can. But even my memory of that stuff is starting to fading through the fast and coming out now, when sometimes I experience a 9 and a 10 now. And sometimes I get frustrated or upset and I experience a 1, and that 1 lasts 5 minutes, and then I bounce back to a 5. I bounce back to this baseline. I have not had any inner akathisia since I've stopped my fast. I had some small bouts, like 5 minutes or so, of akathisia, inner akathisia, 2 or 3 times on my fast. It scared the living crap out of me because I had felt so emotionally balanced during the fast. I don't know what was going on with that. There's these crises that pop up during the fast. I mean, they can last 3 to 4 days, right? But these was lasting a few minutes. And it was still 1 minute with akathisia is always and always will be, no matter if it was your first or your last, will always be the most excruciating minute of your life. And it makes me tear up. But having experienced it sporadically for the last year and a half, I know it so well. Like once it'll be gone and I'll work it out of my system and I'll get calm again. And I'll start to feel normal and I'll be so grateful. And then I'll be like, oh, I've been good. It's gone. And then it'll come back. And every single time it's the worst thing I've ever experienced. And that's how I know what it is. And so I had these small bouts of it when I was on the fast. I have not had any since I stopped, and I could not be more thankful. Even talking about it fills me full of dread and fear to think that under some condition could come back, and now I'd have to deal with it again. If anything, it's good incentive for me to just take really, really good care of myself post fast and maybe not do the stupid stuff like I did yesterday. But I had to know yesterday and I had to eat that stuff. So that's enough for that. I'm not going to trigger myself by talking about this forever, but emotionally there's been a profound change. So when I'm not doing anything, or I'm just calm, or I just go in and sit and relax for a minute, kind of recenter, and just go back to center. I go back. I don't feel bad. I don't feel good. Right. I'm just like centered. I can go and do something fun. I can think about, oh, I want to do this. It will be fun. And I get excited to do it and it would be fun. It hasn't happened to me for 5 years. Like I could think about whatever I want. I don't really get excited. After doing the Candida cure and do some really hardcore diet changes, I have had some of it. Again, I could, if I was thinking about something really exciting, I could bounce up to a 3 for a little bit and then it fades away. Right now, if I'm excited, my baseline's a 5, it's kind of normal. I guess it doesn't make sense being happy as a 3 and then having your baseline of nothing being a 5. But I think people understand, especially people that are going through TMS injury, other neurological injury. I think you get it. And it does make sense in a way, at least to me, but I think other people will get it too. So emotionally, I've been balanced and I've experienced a full range of emotion, which is extremely odd to me. I just want to be clear with people. I was not prepared for that psychologically. My mindset is based on trying to survive one day at a time, dealing with extreme mental adversity and extremely adverse physiological feelings every day. A good day is when I don't have anything in particular that makes me feel horrible. I don't have panic attacks. akathisia or severe chronic fatigue, like during the day. Like if I could just get through a day with not experiencing much of those things, the less, the better my day is. It doesn't mean I have to have anything positive happen to me. I just need not bad things to happen, not have like these flares of, or have the wind kick up and I become so dizzy, like I run into walls, or I just feel super cognitive fog all day because of the weather, these kinds of things. So I'm going to move it along because I'm sure this thing's getting long. I'm kind of running out of mental energy, if you can believe that. But I just had an appointment too. So anyways, so that I don't know much else to say. Obviously the biggest thing is that happiness and the joy that I feel when I do fun stuff, I haven't experienced that, and I can't tell you how long. And again, I experienced it when I first experienced it. I put it on one of the audio journals, and it was huge. It was just life-changing when it happened. Like it just massive awakening when I started experiencing that. Just a huge game changer for anyone that's experiencing the bluntness and the numbness and the negativity of psychiatric injury. It's that in itself is a huge game changer, profound emotional change, which, I mean, I look at the metabolic, digestive, and emotional stuff. They're all tied together. They all must be tied together. I don't know if actually separating them out serves much of a purpose. I'm sure they're all intertwined. I know our brain's connected to our gut, and I've never been able to fully understand like which one came first, right? Which one affects the other. But rather I know that they both affect each other. It's just a matter of to what proportion, right? So I'll say it again as well. My lung capacity has greatly increased. I used to run a lot, like 20 plus miles at a time on trails. And I know my lung capacity has been reduced and my breaths haven't been as full, which I don't like because having neurological injury, I want to know oxygen is getting to my brain. And if you're not getting full breaths, it feels like in some way that's limited. So it's been something that's been in my consciousness for a while now, and I've been unhappy with it. I did not think it was going to change during the fast. I did not think the fast would affect that, but I can take big full breaths and feel like full pocket of air in my lungs. My suspicion is that fat stores packed in around my lungs and my chest cavity, and or my stomach was storing things, or my organs was storing more of that material, and it was not allowing my lungs to fully expand. At some point that happened. That would be my guess. And then the fast used up those nutrient reserves. Obviously it pulls your stomach down, shrinks it, constricts it. I mean, I looked like a skeleton at the high point of my fast. Clearly I could feel my stomach moving around and shifting, and I couldn't feel the pressure coming off my organs, but you can feel them shifting, like, because there's so much change in there. So that's around that time, like my lung capacity started to free up, and now I can take bigger, fuller, deeper breaths. And to me, that's huge. When you're talking about positives, like they just stack up on top of each other, and feeling like you can get a full breath when you haven't been able to feel that for years. It's huge. It's a huge deal. It's just huge. It's another huge positive for you when you can take a deep breath, right? When it comes to stress, when I'm stressing out, I just take a full deep breath. Like I get more stress relief if my feelings are getting worked up. Whereas before, like I'd take a deep breath and it would help, but it felt restricted. You know, it was a little bit different than it was. So those are the major things that I'm absolutely sure about that have been profound changes. I think my circulation has gotten better. I think there's circulatory changes, which makes sense. I had orthostatic intolerance as well. So when I crouched down and got up, I would pass out if I did it too quickly. That was post TMS. Never experienced anything like that in my whole life. but after TMS, it happened. A lot of other people reported as well. To me, it seems like a common thing, but people have a hard time putting a name to it. Like I didn't even know what orthostatic intolerance was before, but I kept having the issue, and I was telling my doctor, I was like, this is a big change for me. And they're just like, who cares? Right. Of course they would say that. Right. And they didn't know what orthostatic intolerance was either. But me and a friend of mine, they were digging through all this stuff, found out what it was. And it's when, you're in a posture, you shift the posture, and then your blood pressure drops precipitously, and then you can pass out, blackout, you see stars, all that stuff, but to a serious effect, right? And so I gained that. I think it's a little bit better. I've gotten it sometimes, but sometimes I haven't, whereas I know I would have gotten it before. I'm kind of on hold on the circulation improvement, because when you're fasting, anywhere you shift quickly, like you start to pass out if you do it too quickly, whether you're getting up, you're sitting upright, you're getting off the couch, you're standing up, no matter what it is, that is just a thing. Your blood pressure is a lot weaker. Like, you need to go slow. It's a big thing in the literature. It happened to me immediately. My blood pressure was already low, on the low end, again, because I'm eat really, really lean, and I've been lightweight, and I was an endurance kind of runner before. So my blood pressure's always been on the low side. Well, it's been on the real low side sometimes. And the interesting thing was, I was really worried that it would drop too low during the fast, but it's weird. It stabilized at a low level. Before, I'd be low but high, and then I'd be like low, like actually have low blood pressure, but on the high end of low. And so I would worry about it, but my doctor, I mean, they're more worried about high blood pressure. So if it's low but not super low, they're just like, you're fine. Which is true. I felt fine. I felt lightheaded sometimes, but I just kind of dealt with it. What are they going to do for you? They can do nothing for you, and nothing healthy anyways. And they just don't have the options, right? So I kind of did some research, and I just let it be. I think now I still have low blood pressure, but it feels more stable. It was more stable during the fast. It didn't drop the way I expected, which is also in the literature. People think like, you have low blood pressure, you're gonna have a problem, right? But people with high blood pressure, it comes down. It comes down into the normal range. And for me, it being low, I thought maybe it would drop, but it didn't. It just stabilized, and it got more reliable. It was always kind of at the same numbers every time I would measure them. So I can see some improvements happening there, but I think that's going to be something I'll measure better over the long term. So we'll come to the things that have not changed or am not doing great with after the fast, because cognition is one of them. Me remembering everything that's happened for the positive or for the negative is not going to be completely assured. I'm making lists, and I'm reviewing it daily and discussing it, which when I go over material repeatedly like that, over a longer term, and I'm really interested in the material, I tend to retain it well. So that's just an issue. So my cognition, I feel like maybe there could have been some improvements, but here's the caveat. The one thing that I have not fared well with is vestibular issues, dizziness, balance issues. It's spring right now. The weather's fluctuating a lot. The worst part of the year for me is spring. When the weather fluctuates, it's windy, big temperature changes, allergens in the air, stuff like that. I have a ton of brain fog. My cognition gets really poor. I get very dizzy, and I have balance problems, significant ones, almost all the time. A friend of mine told me that when they went to vestibular rehab, one of the therapists there said that vestibular issues are tied to depersonalization, derealization, which when they told me this, it totally made sense. I feel way foggier and way more depersonalized on bad weather days where my balance and my dizziness are at their peak. Maybe DPDR has a ton to do with vestibular stuff. And the thing is, some of the vestibular stuff that we have, it's not even pronounced. We don't even know. And that's what I think the guy said at this vestibular rehab. He said, you can have vestibular problems and not even really be aware of it. You may not feel them. They might not manifest as dizziness or balance problems. It might just be a not quite right feeling, NQR, or a depersonalization, derealization. And that's how that comes down to balance and like how you're perceiving your environment and make you feel wonky and feel like you have a brain fog or cognitive issues. So I know it plays a big role for me. My cognition is much more poor when I'm having the vestibular issues, which I never tied together. I just thought, oh, I feel wonky because I feel dizzy, right? But I hate the depersonalization, derealization. If there's one thing I could change, that would be it about my injury. I hate feeling like things aren't quite real, like I'm not quite here. I want to feel crisp and clear. So that's my thing. Everybody's got a different thing. That's my thing. So that being said, learning this was a game changer for me. So I had COVID. It screwed up. I had made progress in vestibular rehab. COVID completely set me back to what I was before. And then now doing the fast. With the fast, the more active you are, and the more you move your head around, the more you move your vestibular system. It's neuroplastic. So the more you do that, the more it adapts and changes and grows, and then you kind of grow past these balance problems, or at least improve as much as you can, get to a better spot. Laying down, being sedentary, not moving a lot on the fast, I don't think it was helpful for my vestibular problems. I don't know if I'm worse. I'm certainly not better at the moment. It's also spring. I'm also at the mercy of the weather in the worst way. It's colder here than it's ever been for longer, which means it warm up, get cold, warm up, get cold. It's absolute worse for my sensations, my balance, my dizziness, the vestibular stuff. So I don't know how to read that because of what's going on. I certainly still have all the positive feelings, so it really helps me deal with that and stay positive every day. And I do vestibular exercises at home, and I stick with them to try to help myself. I mean, I definitely improve when I'm doing the exercises. I improve and I kind of get over quicker, and I can enjoy more of my day. But every day I wake up, I'm usually in pretty bad shape. Like I'll get up out of bed and I have to hold on to something, and I have to spread my legs apart and kind of slow walk to get it's like getting your sea legs after you've been at sea coming on land or whatever. It's just goofy, right? So that's an issue, right? My tinnitus, I have not noticed a change in my tinnitus yet. It certainly hasn't gotten worse. It may have improved a little bit. It's hard to tell. It's still there. I haven't really noticed a change. It has not gotten worse, I can tell you that. There have been times with my cognition I thought maybe it was a little bit better. And then there's times where it felt a little bit worse, and that corresponded with weather changes, not necessarily anything to do with the fast. So that's kind of undetermined. If I had to just call the ball right now, I would say no improvement, no worsening. So I would say no change. I'm hoping maybe after spring, I notice some changes. I know people that have done prolonged water fasting that have had brain fog, some cognitive type issues. And I've read about it. It's like they gain this great clarity after a prolonged water fast that they haven't had in like 10 years or something, right? So I know there's a potential for improvement there. To me, that seems like maybe a more long-term thing. So if I did additional fasts, I feel like some of these other things are coming up. So I'd say you fix your gut health and your metabolism. It's like a foundation. If I can now absorb the nutrients that I need for my brain and my body, where I couldn't do that before, your body was physically incapable of doing it. I feel like now I'm opened the door for positive cognitive changes and other changes that could be positive. And there's that. So as I absorb nutrients, things might improve. And then there's the potential for additional fasts in the future where I could continue to build and give my nervous system rest and allow it to heal itself even more. So I think that's really promising, and it gives me something to look forward to. My pain. So I have low back injury and like different body pains, twitches and stuff from TMS. So the one thing, so my pain, if I had to say right now, I would say that there's no change. If I had to say, I have been like stretching more, paying more attention to my body, doing more massage, more calm things since my fast. So I feel like my pain's a little bit reduced, but I've also been doing more for it, right? So it's not fair to say that, oh, that was a part of the fast. I will see as time goes on, that's something I will be able to measure better, just like the circulation issue. We'll see. Interesting thing, like my shoes are a little bit looser. My hats that I was wearing before are a little bit looser. Like the inflammation in your body and those tissue changes, like they are throughout your whole and entire body, every single part of your body. So I would imagine, like, no matter what part of your body is experiencing pain, that there would be a lesser inflammation in that area for sure. And so we'll see. So I also, I had a knee injury from a while ago. I had zero knee pain since the fast, but I haven't got out and exercised, like pushed it to the limit on exercise or anything where I would experience some pain. So I think there's a potential, like, since I haven't had any pain there at all, no aching, no nothing, I'm thinking there was some improvement, but we'll see. My back pain is still there, for sure. Like if that was gone, it would be a huge thing, because I have a tremendous amount of back pain on a daily basis that I deal with as well. So there could be some improvement, but it's not profound improvement, right? Or there could be no improvement. It has not gotten worse, I could tell you that. I had a low back kind of crisis crop up early in the fast, and that resolved, but that pain was clearly different than the pain that I experience on a daily basis. So I knew that was going to be different anyways. So that's something of note. Anything else? I can't really. Oh, let's see. I have oh, that's right. So I have fasciculations like all over my body after TMS, which has all kinds of implications, right? So my body continuously twitches and it doesn't stop after TMS. And I've taken videos of it and I posted it and stuff so people understand exactly what that is. So during the fast, I still had the fasciculations and the twitches. Sometimes it was worse, and sometimes I didn't really notice it, but it was always there. And then the less I moved, I feel like towards the end of the fast, I didn't really notice it that much, but I wasn't moving much, so it seemed kind of normal to me. When I started eating again, my body went nuts. Like I was fasciculating all the time, like everywhere. There was a lot more fasciculations going on when I started refeeding. I was freaking out. I was like, oh boy, like this was something really bad that happened. And now I'm just going to twitch all the time. Like it was like right away, like in the first like 48 hours. Like I remember the first night, like I was trying to sleep. My calves were just going absolutely batty, and it took me a while to fall asleep because they were twitching so much. And it was so visceral. I could feel it so well. Well, that stopped and that normalized. That went away. I had a couple days of that. So a couple days of increased nerve activity throughout my whole body when I started refeeding. And then it just went back to normal. So I've had twitches and stuff since then, but I've been stretching and doing some additional things. So I don't have a gauge. It hasn't gotten worse. Right now, I'm definitely not worse. I don't know if I'm any better along with the circulation issues. Some days I'm like, oh, I don't really notice it. But then other days I'll have a bunch of twitches, right? That's kind of standard for me. So I don't know if there's any improvement in that area. That's another big one that people get with TMS. So I'm not sure. We'll continue. I'll as time goes on, some of these like more particular things, I'll start monitoring a lot closer to see if there was a change, and we'll see what happens. And then I'll report on it so we know. But again, I'm kind of hopeful that if my circulation like increases, my metabolism is more balanced, if some of these other issues rectify, then maybe as time goes on in the future that these nerve issues will rectify as well, and I won't have the twitches and the fasciculations. But we'll see. It's something to keep an eye on. So that's all I got for right now. Again, kind of a retrospective. These big changes they're almost difficult for me to handle psychologically. I really didn't anticipate them. I think probably a lot of people that water fast don't have to deal with them. They already have like kind of probably a more normal like psychology around like having a more normal life, like being injured psychiatrically. Like there's just extreme things that we have to deal with. So if those things start to resolve and rectify, we're kind of left in this gap of like, what the heck is going on and how do I handle it? Like, I don't know what it's like to handle normal range of emotion in a day. I don't. It's really odd to me. It was kind of terrifying at first. It felt weird. And now I'm trying to just put things in its proper place and just accept things as normal. Every time I get upset, I start thinking something extreme is happening to me because I felt good a minute ago, right? But really it's just a shift because something changed in my environment, things like this. So if you were considering doing a prolonged water fast, I seriously consider folding some sort of plan in on how you might handle the changes that come up. And if you have a go-to for healthy thinking going forward, what if you do benefit from a prolonged water fast? What if you have great positive changes? Are you just going to revert back to your old, thinking habits? Are you going to, if you're type A, are you going to just start overdoing it again and essentially hurt yourself all over again? If you have a depressive personality type, what are you going to do if you have energy? Are you prepared psychologically to handle having a good metabolism and clean energy? You're going to go work out every day and start cooking for yourself and keeping it healthy, like if you can manage to do it? Or are you going to be like, yeah, I'm going to freaking play video games all day and do this and that and neglect my healthy habits because I'll finally have energy, right? Go party all the time, right? Is that what you're going to do? Or are you going to think ahead of time and be like, what do I want it to look like? Ideologically, like what I want. Do I want to work on my virtues, right? Like being disciplined, being humble, being helpful to others, doing great things for myself and living a contented life, right? Am I going to apply myself to some of these things? Or am I going to go back to school? Am I going to learn a trade? Am I going to help my community? Am I going to start writing? Am I going to start talking? Am I going to start doing positive things for my family and my tribe and the people around me? Am I going to start contributing in a positive way if I can? Ask yourself these questions as you're on your fast. I ruminated a lot on food during my fast, and it helped me get through it. And I thought about all the stuff I wanted to cook that was clean when I was done with my fast. And that's really great. But I feel like I really missed out on maybe figuring out some other things that I wanted to do when I was done with my fast. And really it's because I didn't have a lot of hope during my fast that things were going to improve. I didn't believe that things were going to improve. On the fast, I was like, well, what could get better for me? This has been 5 years of feeling like junk and trying so hard and making so little progress. Like, this is not possible. It's just not going to happen. Like, it's not a real thing. And so I just thought about food. I was like, okay, if I can enjoy some food again, that would be a huge win. Like, what do I want to cook for myself? What do I want to make? What do I want to make me happy after the fast? If I get excited about food, that would be a huge win, right? What if you get a lot more than that? What are you going to do? What if you don't? What if you don't get anything out of it? What if you get worse? you know. I try not to be like a pessimist or an optimist. I try to be balanced. I try to be pragmatic. It doesn't always serve me well. I mean, I wish I would have been more hopeful on my fast and maybe look forward to some bigger changes for me. But everybody's different. Everybody's got their stuff. It's just it's all rhetorical stuff. I'm just trying to give you something to think about. I'm trying to help you in a way that I didn't get help. I didn't get from anywhere like really the kind of psychological changes that I might need in a psychiatric survivor view. Like, it's totally different than anything that's written about in the literature. There's none of this stuff is in there. Like, for us, we should think about that. The other thing is preparing for refeeding and coming out of the fast is completely understated in every single interview I've ever seen and all the literature. Like, there's very little about refeeding and coming out of the fast. And I think that's because, I mean, a week and a half out of the fast, you're feeling way better, right? And everyone's really positive and they're looking back and they're like, oh, it's fine, right? No, it's not fine. It's serious, and it needs to be expounded on and explained. Coaching resources, you need to have people you can go to and stuff. Maybe you're different. Everyone's different. That's what I found. I found refeeding to be something I was really undereducated and underprepared for. And so that's the only other thing that I would urge people to think about when they're going through it and to prepare for. I mean, I'm sure there's resources out there that I haven't found yet that could have helped me. I didn't look for them, and they weren't available, and they weren't there in the stuff that I read, and the people that I talked to just wasn't talked about. So it's something you might want to figure out, get a really good handle on it, and be sure you're prepared. Because if you're coming out of a fast in kind of an urgent situation where you're like, okay, I need to refeed because I'm not feeling well or I'm scared, which is what happened to me. It doesn't mean it will happen to you. That's just what happened to me. I managed to stay calm during the whole fast and I was good with it. But once I was ready to come out, like, I couldn't get out fast enough. And it's a no-go. I'd equate it to being chased, say, again, just a parallel to try to help you think, being chased by a predator, right? Imagine you're camping or something and you get chased by a predator, and say it's a bear or something, you just run, right? Not that you should run from a bear, but it's or a wolf or something you don't know, right? Or maybe a human being, right? They're chasing you, it's nighttime, and you're running, and you're just running, and you realize you've just been running and they're gone, right? And then you stop. This is the equivalent of like the fast, right? Like, you're just going on your fast. You're going as far as you can go. You want to make it far, and then you go. And then you're 20, 30, 40 days gone. And now you stop. And you realize you had no idea where you just ran to. And it's nighttime. You're in the woods. And you have no idea where you are. And you have no idea where to go. And it's just quiet and it's just dark, right? And say it's cold out. You just got yourself into a place that you need to get out of, and the seriousness is just as serious now as when someone was chasing you, like, and trying to take your life or to harm you, right? But you just don't know where you are, and you don't know how to get back, right? You may have some idea of the direction that you ran, but there's no guarantees that you're going to make it back. That's how it felt. That's how it felt to me when I was refeeding. I felt like, wow, I just ran in one direction as hard as I could for as long as I could, and now I have to turn around and run home, being completely exhausted. So I mean, obviously I don't want to turn anyone off from doing the prolonged water fast. I'm trying to give a real, honest, pragmatic education on what it was like for me when I turned around and started heading back. I was so far from any place that I had ever been that it was frantic. It was a frantic experience. And I did not want to end up in the hospital. I didn't want to end up being that person that did it on their own and then totally screwed it up and either, and got hurt. So that's how it felt. So I'm just educating. I mean, anyone that's listening, is obviously, it's important that you learn or have access to the knowledge and the learning that I went through. So that's what I got out of it. So the psychology, thinking about the psychology piece, and then the refeeding and coming back piece, is far more important, and it's totally understated in the literature. So those were my big lessons from it for at the 2-week mark, thinking back on it. I think my experience has massive implications for the survivor community. I hope people are open to it. I have to measure my progress as time goes on and continue to share that. There are a lot of other implications that are involved. I think I'm going to write up a piece for Mad in America. Hopefully they'll accept it. I really don't know much about how the community feels about this kind of stuff. I don't know if they think it's dangerous or reckless or what. I certainly don't. I think it's wonderful. I think it's absolutely incredible, and the implications for the community are just far more than I can imagine. So we will see what other people think. But all right, that's enough for today. I got to thank you guys for listening, and yeah, have a good one. I'll talk soon.